Hi guys, thanks for joining us. We're just going to do a bit of a run through of what we see coming in the way of 2021 trends for retail. We're going to talk about e-commerce, but it'll also touch on in-store. I'm Jason James. I'm the head of PPC here at Global Search Marketing. I manage a team of account managers. Working with Google and other channels. And joining me today, I've got Lloyd from Google. He's here to kind of give Google's perspective on things and to share some really useful data with us.
Thanks, Jason. So yeah, hi everyone. My name's Lloyd, and I'm an agency development manager here at Google. And I guess my role is I work with the series of the top UK independent agencies, and part of my role involves kind of trying to forecast the future, helping agencies to future-proof themselves. And I guess that's through a combination of giving them and their clients insights into what's going on at Google and what we're seeing across the board, as well as kind of helping clients to leverage Google's latest technologies within their marketing activity. But yeah, as Jason said, today we're going to focus with an eye on retail. Obviously, it's been a bit of a weird kind of 12 months for every industry, but I think retail has definitely been something that we've seen certainly some acceleration of trends over the last year. So I'm excited to kind of talk to you about what we've seen, what we're still seeing, and maybe give you a few tips on some actions that you might decide that you want to take on the back of that.
Should be really interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. So, sorry, Jason, we're skipping over each other there.
No worries, I'll let you.
We'll go to this slide here, Jason. Any idea what it is that I'm presenting to you here?
If I was to guess, I would say an eye test, a fairly easy one at this stage. I'm not too old just yet, but I'm guessing it's not so simple.
No, and it does look like one, doesn't it? But it's not an eye test. So this is essentially an idea of the predictions that how the post-economic recovery might look like after we start to come out of lockdowns. So some of these have been described as a V-shaped recovery, where we might see an instant spike and kind of coming up to the sort of levels we were pre-COVID. And then there's also things like a U-shaped recovery, where it's more of a gradual incline. And that kind of goes through to W, where it's up and down. And I won't go into the L and K, but as you can see, it's
pretty complicated.
It could go one of several ways. But if we just kind of jump to the next slide, we can see here some of the macroeconomic indicators that have been going on towards the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021. So wow. Bit of a complex picture, as you can see. Confidence is rising from a consumer perspective. However, it's still down on where it was last year. We can see that the pound, it was down, then it was up, then it went down, and I believe right now it's right back up again. And that's even before we start to look at like the FTSE 100, still not recovered fully. Retail sales are up, but unemployment rates also up, and GDP growth rates down. So there's a lot of kind of moving factors here that we need to consider, and that's kind of before we've even figured out how Brexit's going to play out over the next year as well.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be quite challenging to figure out what all this means really, and what the larger impact is going to be, especially on marketing.
Definitely. And I think, just to kind of set expectations, there's no way we're going to give you a crystal ball view into the future here, but hopefully it will help you to become more adaptable, because the one thing's for certain is that we're going to see a lot of micro changes throughout the year, and no one knows what's fully going to happen in 2021. We can see the shift to online e-commerce. Some of that's probably going to stick even when we come to see like post-vaccine and reopening, but we're not sure kind of how much that online purchase behaviors going to change. So I think what we need to do is kind of look at what we can plan for.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what we can expect from 2021.
Definitely, and I think what we're going to look at today is kind of broke these down into 5 different trends that we've seen, that we expect to see. These, just to be clear, this stuff's already happening. So these are some of the things that brands really need to think about, that they're tangible and they're addressable.
Great. I mean, obviously, we'd expect some, incremental growth in e-commerce just generally. Even if we were to take COVID out of the equation, with technology evolving, devices multi-screening, we'd expect that kind of online sales to grow anyway. During a normal 2020, through to now in 2021. But this, with all of the the other things going on from COVID, has that growth accelerated?
Yeah, absolutely. So this, we can see here that what we've kind of described this as is, in 2020 we've seen 10 years worth of e-commerce growth in only 3 months. So customer journeys are becoming a lot more messier, a lot more complex, but the pandemic has really accelerated this trend that we were already seeing pre-pandemic, in which customers expect a lot more from brands. So we're just going to quickly take a look at some e-marketer research. So we can see here that e-commerce is forecast to remain a very high percentage of sales. So domestically in the UK, the eMarketer report predicts that we'll spend £141 billion online in 2020. That's going to be the first time that e-commerce will contribute 30% to overall retail sales in the UK. In terms of when we're going to see like the bounce back, we expect that UK retail will be back to 2020 spending from a total spend perspective, online and offline, by around 2023. So that means the retailers are really going to have to start to adapt quickly, and also bear in mind that some of these habits that consumers have developed during the last 12 months, some of those are here to stay. And to coin the most overused phrase of 2020, the new normal, as we like to say.
Yeah, definitely.
So just looking at an example here. So we're just looking, this graph shows the online demand for consumer electronics, and it shows that throughout 2020, you can see that obviously there were some peaks and troughs here, but it remained high all throughout the year. So that means that the shift didn't recede when shops reopened. So you see on June the 15th there, retail opens. There wasn't a massive increase in terms of offline behavior, and we didn't see that a decrease in online behavior. So what that kind of shows us is that customers don't really think like marketers. When we're optimizing towards e-commerce campaigns, we tend to talk a lot about, like, is this an online sales objective or an offline sales objective? Yeah. Customers they're just looking for the right product. They want a good product. They want it at the right price. They want to know where and how they can get it, whether that be in store or online. So customers will kind of work around whatever lockdown restrictions are in place, and they'll shop wherever it's and however it's the most convenient for them. I know there's been a lot of talk around like the demise of the high street, but we firmly believe that stores have still got a very important part to play, but also digital research does too. So this is something that's, as I say, it's an acceleration of an existing trend.
Great.
So just kind of looking next at a trend that we've seen, and this is around digital service experiences. So we can see here some examples of kind of IKEA opening their first virtual store. We can see here that Dyson started offering video demos. I've seen tons of like car brands doing like virtual showrooms. Actually, a customer that we work with is Chester Zoo, and they even did like an online zoo. So it just shows that, like, no matter what the business model, brands have had to adapt and be really innovative in the way that they're kind of, I guess, having a virtual storefront. And this is definitely a habit that we think is here to stay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just from kind of a GSM perspective, we've got clients, furniture stores, for example, where they've got digital, virtual tours of their stores. They're really big open stores, with great things to see in there. So they've obviously transitioned to a digital storefront. And outside of that, you've got in real estate, you've got virtual home viewings where you're doing a virtual tour around a house, as well. So every industry, market vertical has had to kind of adapt to that. And as you say, a lot of these habits are here to stay. Are you able to kind of give us a bit of a roundup on kind of how they've changed?
Yeah, absolutely. No, great points, particularly with the home viewings as well. That's definitely something that I've seen a big rise in. So yeah, like, what's the implication for retailers? So if you think e-commerce is making up a third of retail sales this year, what brands really need to start thinking about is how are you going to react to that as a business? And I guess that's first of all meeting high expectations. So do you have the best digital marketing and experiences set up to compete? And then lastly, like, how are you going to use your store if you are an omnichannel retailer? Can you use your stores as a competitive advantage for you? Just going to look here at the kind of core drivers that we've seen generally in normal times, but also kind of what we've seen in 2020. So generally what we do at Google, as account managers, we look at seasonality, and we're always kind of looking forward to things that drive purchase behavior. A lot of that sometimes comes from the weather. Us Brits, whenever we have a mild bit of sunshine, then everyone's looking to buy a paddling pool and bathers. Whenever it's Valentine's Day, we see flowers spike and chocolate spike. And also, when it's the holiday time, when we come into summer months, that's when we start to see people wanting to travel, and you might get different purchase behavior on the back of that. So this is still going to be important. These events will still remain; they're not going anywhere. But I think predicting how much their volume, the volume spike, will come from that, and how intense the auction's going to be, is going to be quite challenging, because we've got other factors at play.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on top of that, obviously now, we're in kind of March 21, and there's a roadmap out from the government on their path out of lockdown. Trying to predict how it's going to affect different verticals and markets. Best case end of June, start of July. As lockdown gets released is crystal ball time, but yeah, challenging.
Yeah, and it definitely is, and I think we're already, since the announcement of like the lockdown ending, and customers kind of seeing summer holidays on the horizon, we're already seeing like big spikes in travel intent and also in hospitality. I'm from Leeds, and a pub down the road kind of sold out of their beer garden spots for April, in 5 minutes or something. So people want to get out, they want to do things, they want to go on holiday and socialize. But this has a knock-on effect, for other businesses. For example, a client that I work with is they deal predominantly in footwear, and throughout the pandemic they were flogging slippers like hot dinners. People wanted comfortable footwear, and now I think people will be looking to go out. They're starting to plan now to kind of maybe promote the high heels a little bit more than they did the slippers. So definitely knock-on effects to be expected from kind of the government's announcement.
Be interesting.
Absolutely. And then so if we look a little bit more in terms of what brands can do, This is something that's definitely been a trend that's been accelerated this year. In almost all categories, we're seeing consumer perception of sustainability as a major factor into whether they do or do not purchase. So, depending on the category, there's different considerations, but you can see here things like, recycling or buying environmentally friendly products, or plastic-free, zero waste, those kind of socially responsible kind of considerations. If you are a brand that has got good green credentials, then that's definitely something that you can think about starting to incorporate into your marketing strategy, whether that be in your website content, whether it be in your USPs for your Google ads, for your social ads. That kind of thing is definitely something that particularly the younger generations really do care about.
Yeah, definitely.
And the other one that we're seeing is people investing in their homes, and we think that they'll continue to do that as well. We're all working from home. Our white collar workers, we're all kind of investing in a new desk, in a comfy chair. I know, Jason, I've looked at your comfy number that you've got there with MV on several occasions. But we're so this trend we don't think will change. A lot of companies are going to a fully work from home model. Some companies, I know at Google, we're looking at a hybrid model. I don't know at GSM, Jason, if you've kind of decided what you guys are going to do yet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think there's a long-term decision on that, but I think it definitely in the medium term it's going to be a hybrid model. Which I think a lot of companies are doing. We're from a very corporate background, set in central Birmingham. So for us, a hybrid model is ideal.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, every agency that I've spoke to and clients, it tends to be at least kind of a hybrid model is going to be on the horizon. So
yeah,
the fact of the matter is we're going to spend more time in our homes. I think people throughout the last year have already started to invest. I can't count the amount of times I've seen people setting up their home bars in their garden on my Facebook and Instagram feeds. So yeah, this is something that we think will definitely persist. So if you are a customer in this space, then it's definitely worth thinking about what your marketing strategy and start planning out your budget for the rest of the year in terms of how you're going to capture that level of demand.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's down to kind of what are the implications for retailers, practically speaking, from this shift in the purchase drivers. Yeah,
definitely, and so I think the three things to take away from this section. First of all, plan for those micro peaks. They're still going to happen. So it's very important to have those strategies in place for those important times of year and those cultural moments that will drive demand. It's also important to share, to have a voice as a brand, share your point of view on things like sustainability and inform your customers where you're coming from on that. And then lastly, anticipate this prolonged work from home. It's not going anywhere quickly, and definitely there's going to be some kind of hybrid there that will drive people to really care about their work and living space.
Definitely.
Cool. So just looking at the next section, this to me was kind of one of the most interesting parts of this research. So obviously COVID has changed a lot of habits, and it's also kind of presented brands and businesses with additional opportunity because customers are trying new things. Some of that comes from necessity. Obviously your life's changed, so you need to invest in different products, and we think that some of this kind of behavior would be sticky. So if you look at the top stat there, 37% of UK customers have tried a new brand because their regular was not available. And the second stat is 35% of millennial and 31% of Gen Z customers have discovered new brands on social media. So that could be because more brands are popping up out there. It also could be because we're spending a hell of a lot more time online, because we're kind of indoors a lot more. We're spending more time on our mobiles, on our laptops. So we're exposed to brands a lot more.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a trend that we think will sustain, and definitely an opportunity for marketers.
Great. So now is a really good time then for kind of clients, to focus their marketing more on kind of the prospecting side and acquiring new customers, as opposed to kind of knuckling down and just focusing on remarketing and selling to their existing kind of brand loyal customers. It is now a really good time to do that.
Yeah, I think you definitely need to have a strategy for both, and don't forget that there are other brands who are going to be coming after your customers as well. So you do need to have that defense strategy, as well as kind of having that marketing strategy in place for you to be able to capture that additional demand. But we did some research actually. I'm not sure if you remember it, Jason, but around the messy middle. It's definitely something that we can share after this, along with the presentation. But with the messy middle discussed around how customers behave now, and it's very much not in a linear way. Customers are much less brand loyal. They move between evaluation stage through to education phase, and they look for trigger points in which leads them through to purchase. So we identified a few ways within this research of how brands can maybe change their messaging, focus on certain aspects of their brand to drive customers to that purchase decision. Certain things like social proof, things like the power of now, making sure that people have got urgency when it comes to buying a product. But that's something that we can share as a separate piece of research. I think it ties in very well with this. Yeah,
really interesting that messy middle.
Brill. So moving on to kind of media consumption, and I know this is something that we've discussed before, Jason, but online media consumption is like on the rise. Your watch time in YouTube in the UK has been increasing. We've seen 30% increase in YouTube on connected TVs. So people are finding ways to entertain themselves and learn via YouTube, and that's a trend that we continue to see.
Yeah, so video for brands is now more important than it's ever been. Whether that be YouTube, traditional, or on social. Consumers are definitely interested in getting that content via video. It's quick and easy. It fills time when between other things. So it's definitely a focus.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, when we talk about YouTube, obviously other video platforms are available, but it's kind of talking about YouTube. I think what goes hand in hand with this is that the product has become a lot more accessible to advertisers that maybe before it was a nice to have, and it wasn't maybe something that formed part of their marketing mix. Now with products like shoppable YouTube and YouTube for Action, you can actually drive that bottom funnel conversion for performance marketers through video campaigns, which probably wasn't accessible when we look at maybe even 5 years ago. It was kind of reserved for the big spending kind of traditional media brands. Not anymore.
Yeah, that's great.
And the next trend I wanted to talk about, Jason, was just around international growth. So, we talked about customers discovering new brands all the time. One of the key reasons that we see this happening is that there are just a lot more brands available for them to discover. We've seen a lot of interest in brands who are looking to grow their company and grow their market share outside of their home market. If we think about international travel, especially like for traveling to shop, that's probably not looking likely to happen, in the short term. So it's important that brands know that international growth is going to be key to driving sales volume.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, just to summarize this section, again, 3 key points to take away. Make sure your exposure is high. Stay top of mind with your advertising where customers spend their time. Definitely, to your point, having an acquisition strategy alongside a remarketing strategy is key. And then lastly, think global. So if you know that we can help with this, and we work closely with GSM to help them spot where there are growing trends in different markets. But if you've got language barriers, then working with a Google Premier Partnered agency, we can help you with translation services to overcome those language barriers. We can also kind of help with showing you where there might be low cost per clicks, low auction depth, so that you can find markets that might be competitive for you to start advertising in.
Yeah, I mean, for advertisers in general, that work with GSM, I think, years ago it would have been a case of, I don't have any video, or I don't have anybody that can speak or write in a certain language. Those aren't really barriers anymore. To capitalizing on those market opportunities. If someone comes to us and they need to advertise in France, Spain, Germany, any number of other languages, we can help with that, and so can Google. And it's the same with the video. A lot of clients will say, I don't have any video content, I don't have any resources to create that. That shouldn't be a barrier to miss out. I think they go hand in hand.
Amazing. Cool. So the next section here that I'm just going to talk about is DTC brands, so direct to customer brands. This is something that we've seen as being a growing trend, something again that we think is going to be a big trend this year. And I guess one reason for that growth in direct to consumer brand has been around the growth of e-commerce as a whole. But a couple of examples that we saw from some of the bigger advertisers, for example, Nike. They were already planning on capitalizing on direct to customer growth. At the time, back in 2016, even they were looking at this as kind of growing their direct to customer base by 250%, and now they're accelerating that even further since the pandemic began, because online shopping, it really does even the playing field. So it makes the internet, if you like, your product shelf. You no longer have to rely on those big high street retailers to distribute your product. So there's definitely massive opportunity here for a level of playing field for those smaller brands.
Yeah.
And then, this is something I think that's a real positive. I remember the time when all anyone used to look for was the cheapest. What is the cheapest shoe? What is the cheapest kettle? What we've seen is a huge shift in the way that consumers search on what they're looking for. If you look at this graph here, what it indicates is the change since 2004 in search volume containing the word cheap, which is the dark line, to search queries containing the word best, which is the green line. So you can see that when from around 2009, 2010, best started to really overtake cheap in terms of what customers are looking for. Customers, they're looking for brands that can take the work out of them deciding which brand to choose. So we've got a lot more choice. Customers are being more mindful, and what this means is that customers are looking for the best product that they can get. So I think for brands, this is great news, because it means you can focus your attention on making sure that you're telling the right narrative, that your product is the best product out there, rather than that race to the bottom of like, how much margin can we lose to make sure that we're the cheapest.
Yeah, I think focusing on quality, can often be a good way to win, both at an auction level in the search results, but also you're getting the conversion once they come through to the site. I mean, what I would say is kind of how a business is kind of changing to adapt to this kind of simply the best mindset.
Yeah, and I think that's probably something that we're not going to give you a silver bullet on that. You know more about your business than we do. But a couple of things to think about is, first of all, getting your cost structure right. So direct to customer it's a real opportunity. It's here to stay, and making sure that you've got your long-term economics right. That's gonna be your biggest challenge. The second part of that is the double-edged sword of online direct customer experience. I'm sure every business out there has had a negative review that they've thought, that's not fair, that's not true, or on the flip side, tons of positive reviews can really make your business as well. So online researching and reviews and social proof, that's becoming really important to customers. So making sure that you've got I guess a good footprint online in terms of customer experience is definitely going to be important.
Yeah, definitely. Reviews, I think, are generally very important. Whether you're looking at it from a paid search perspective or even an organic search perspective, possibly even more so from that side. That social proof, is key.
Absolutely. Cool. So just moving on to our final pillar, and we're going to talk a little bit now about user privacy. I know it's something Jason, myself, and you have kind of spoke about at depth. Probably kind of not a lot of fun, not the most exciting topic to talk about in terms of attribution and cookie management and data privacy, but we've definitely had our conversations about it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very important topic for everyone, both advertisers and consumers. Me and you, Lloyd, are both consumers just as equally as we work for an agency. So how do we want our privacy to be respected? We have to translate that down.
Definitely, and I think that's definitely Google's approach to this. Is we need to, consumers are demanding kind of more privacy, but they still want those personalized experiences. We can't forget the good that cookies have brought as well in terms of relevancy with advertising. So we've kind of got to get the balance right here. So we are shifting towards a cookieless world at some point. With that's definitely coming down the line, starting with third-party cookies. First-party cookies are a lot more durable. They'll be here for a while, until we find other solutions that we're already actively working on and testing now. But it's definitely something that you need to start thinking about. If we think about GDPR, that was kind of a milestone regulation that really ushered in a new era of regulation. And not so long ago we had the Apple iOS updates with their stance on cookies as well. So definitely this is a longer term discussion, but something that these discussions should start taking place now.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, as long as we've got real cookies, I'm happy. I'm a happy man. If anyone starts trying to interfere with my real cookies, then I might be a bit more upset. But I think from a consumer perspective, having more transparency and control over what they're sharing with who and why is a win for everyone. Just from a technological standpoint, we obviously need to find alternative solutions for advertisers to be able to, accurately monitor and improve their advertising. It's about making a personalized experience so that people convert, because you want to give the consumer what they want when they want it. Like, you don't want to show people stuff they're not going to be interested in. Nobody wins in that situation.
Exactly. And if you look at that stat there on the left-hand side, 71% of customers are frustrated when an experience is not personalized. So definitely something that we need to strike a right balance. So if we look at kind of where we are at the moment in terms of measurement, we used to live in a world where we could fully observe data. Data was not an issue. We had cookies, we had device identifiers, but these rising user expectations on privacy, it's really resulted in additional regulations and restrictions on cookies, from browsers changing and it's changed fundamentally the way that the ecosystem measures conversions.
Definitely.
So what can you do? So first, couple of things to think about here. You need to start planning for privacy regulations now. This is definitely going to impact your measurement and your targeting. So couple of solutions that we're working on at Google. We've got enhanced conversions, and we've also got we've got other conversion solutions in the pipeline as well that can help you to model conversions or to to track users in a more privacy centric way.
Yes, great. And we've obviously already spoken about kind of various solutions kind of in the pipeline, some that are available now, some that will be available, over the coming quarters or months. Each advertiser / retailer is going to be in a different position and have different underlying technology that powers their website.
Yeah.
But there are ways of dealing with these things. But from a kind of the short-term solutions, what are the options available to retailers right now? We talked about kind of first-party data in the past. Is a really good stopgap solution.
Yeah, definitely, Jason. I think first-party data is one of the key things that brands can start to work on now. Work with your agency partners on a first-party data strategy. Whether that's investing in CRM systems, whether that's focusing on big data and how you collect that data responsibly. Secondly, really we kind of start to embrace some of these modeling technologies, things such as consent mode on Google. And lastly, really embrace automation. That is going to be the key to maintaining online advertising success, particularly through this challenging period when it comes to measurement.
Yeah, automation is kind of a bit of a buzzword in kind of marketing at the moment, but it covers a whole plethora of different product solutions, not just from Google, but other channels as well. But yeah, I think it's we're more reliant than ever on that to be able to respond in a timely manner.
Definitely. So Jason, if it's all right with you now, and we've covered those 5 kind of key trends that we're seeing, I just wanted to quickly touch on a couple of the key e-commerce kind of solutions that we have at Google that maybe, it might be of interest to people watching this webinar on how they can maximize their sales. The first one I just wanted to touch on was around automation and smart bidding more specifically. So, which smart bidding strategy should you use? I'm sure that's a question you get quite a lot, Jason, around kind of which one to opt for.
Yeah, definitely.
So, maximize conversion value and target ROAS are the 2 that we would always recommend. Because you're bidding towards value, you can do things like start to work towards bidding towards profitability, but taking into account your margins and that kind of thing, and your customer lifetime value. But maximize conversion value and ROAS are the key ones. Generally, maximize conversion value if you've got a limited budget and you're just wanting to drive the most value as possible, and target return on ad spend if you've got a set target ROAS that you want to work towards and maybe the budget is not so big of a factor. What we see overall is that, from moving to a conversion value-based bidding strategy from a conversion volume-based bidding strategy, an uplift of 14.5% in value. So it's definitely those 2 strategies are the creme de la creme of automated bidding. Next, I just wanted to talk to you about smart shopping, and I know at GSM this is something that you guys are very savvy with, and you've used quite a bit, Jason, and to some good success, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. We've got quite a lot of our e-commerce clients who are running Google Ads using smart shopping. It is a great tool, and we've seen great success. It's evolving over time, every day. It gets a bit better. The more data you give it, the better the results that we get out of it, generally speaking.
Absolutely. And, the key stat here is that we see on average more than a 30% increase in conversion value when using smart shopping campaigns versus a standard shopping campaign. So lots of gains to be had there. And as well, the important thing about smart shopping is it gives you presence across all Google platforms on the search engine results page, on display, and you can also upload video creative to target customers on YouTube as well.
Very flexible.
Absolutely. And the next thing that I wanted to touch on was optimization score. So this is something that has been in beta for quite a while, but it's kind of coming to the front end, and it's a really powerful tool to help marketers to, I guess, see the wood for the trees. They can really see the most important things that they can do within their campaign that's going to have the biggest impact. So it runs from a 0 to 100% score. It'll kind of surface the relevant optimizations in your account, and it's also easy to implement as well. So this is kind of something that's going to help improve your overall profitability by driving growth where automation sees it and machine learning sees that there are marginal gains.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely something that our team here have been utilizing and using as a kind of a benchmark to work out where we're best to spend our time, especially on newer campaigns that we're building from scratch, as well as taking on legacy campaigns when a client joins us.
Yeah, and I think just to be clear as well, Jason, on this, like automation, machine learning, all these kind of tools, they're great on their own, but they work even better with a human there to control them. You really need someone who knows what they're talking about to filter things out, to make sure that these strategies are used in the right way. So the combination of machine learning along with human input will always show greater yields than either a human by themselves or a tool by itself.
Yeah, it's the added context that a person brings that adds the value.
Absolutely. So that's kind of the main things that I wanted to cover in terms of retail. I think that really kind of start to have a think about those key 5 trends that we've seen and we expect to see, and definitely kind of work with Jason and Jason will work with us at Google to make sure that we've got a really robust strategy in place for you going into the rest of this year.
That's great, Lloyd. I mean, that's a really good suite of tools, especially for the e-commerce clients. Obviously there are separate tools for kind of your lead generation side of things, but today obviously we're focusing on retail. But yeah, it's a great suite of tools that we're happy to help anybody with, really. So yeah, I'll just probably just give it a quick summary now, just to pull back to each of the points that we kind of went over and covered today, just so everyone's on the same page. Yeah, I mean, really, it's for 2021. We're obviously 3 months in now, but it's still pretty hard to predict. If you were to say what's going to happen next week, it's quite tricky to know, let alone 6 months from now. Yeah. So we've got a lot of data, and we're doing the best we can, us and Google, to make predictions that are useful and constructive, but there are a lot of things that we know will be the case, where we can obviously focus on that. These channel agnostic customers, from point 2 of the summary, that's not going to change. Like, there's no reason it would. People have discovered that they can do it in a certain way. Why would they stop? And as you showed the data earlier in the slide, when the shops were reopening in gaps in the lockdown, people continued to buy online as well. So I don't think the channel is going to be as important going forward. There are new purchase drivers. I think every retailer or advertiser needs to bear in mind what is the focus, what is drawing people to buy. Is it because it's ethical? Is it sustainable? Is it top quality service? What is it that's driving those purchases? Brands are now built online. That's your shelf, your storefront. It evens out the playing field, like you mentioned. The likes of Nike can be showing products alongside a shop down the road. Google Shopping is going to show them side by side. That's a really good place to kind of build your brand and grow your audience. So business models have and continue to evolve. How people operate. So furniture stores having virtual showrooms. Car sales having virtual tours. All of these different digital elements that have come in as a result of the social distancing through lockdown. They're working. They're going to keep working, regardless of whether or not you're able to go into those stores again. The kind of penultimate one really was consumer privacy and data protection are at the forefront of everything. That's the same for Google. That's the same for us, and that's the same for a lot of other channels. The likes of Facebook and things like that. Giving consumers control and transparency on what data they share with who and what that entity is going to do with that data. We're totally on board. We're trying to make that happen for people in the best way possible. But we also have to bear in mind that consumers want personalized experience, and to have a personalized experience, you have to be willing to share a little bit of your information. As long as you were transparent about that, it shouldn't be a problem. And the last one really was, because it's such an ever-changing landscape, the way to kind of capitalize best on this is to leverage automation, whatever form that may take. The more data you give it, the better, as we say. The first-party data, like customer data, CRM, whatever it may be, that will help it. And having a human there, whether that's a marketing manager internally, whether that's a Google agency rep, whether that's a premier partner like Global Search Marketing, it's always good to have someone there to guide that automation and give it some context. Because often a computer might make a quite black and white decision about something that isn't. That is definitely more of a messy middle type situation. So yeah, I think that's really important. Cool. Well, thanks again for joining us today, Lloyd. It's been really good, really insightful. I'm hoping people viewing the webinar will find it interesting. Obviously, if there's any questions, people can feel free to reach out to me or you via me. We can try and answer those questions, and we'll try and get the data around the messy middle that we mentioned linked as well, which we can follow up with after.
Absolutely, I'll share the research information and the messy middle stuff as well. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I hope that that you got something out of it.
Cool. Hopefully we can do it again soon. Thanks everyone for joining us. I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you. Cheers.